From the earliest days of human civilization, there has always been a group of individuals who looked beyond the veil of the present, who sought patterns in the stars, signs in the rivers, and meanings in the very bones of the earth. These were the priests, the shamans, the keepers of sacred knowledge. They were not merely ritualistic figures performing ceremonies for kings or commoners. They were the custodians of a hidden understanding, a comprehension of time itself, encoded in symbols, rituals, and texts that have, for millennia, been left largely unread by the modern world. Imagine standing in the shadow of an ancient temple, stone walls etched with cryptic symbols, their meaning lost to the ages. The air feels charged, as if the very stones remember the chants and the footsteps of those who once walked these halls. For centuries, these structures have stood as silent witnesses, hiding in plain sight the whispers of forgotten oracles. To the untrained eye, they are monuments, relics of a past that appears static, frozen in time. But for those who know how to look, every carving, every alignment with the sun, the moon, and the stars is part of a vast and deliberate tapestry of prophecy. Across the world, from the soaring ziggurats of Mesopotamia to the labyrinthine pyramids of Egypt, from the sacred groves of the Druids to the Mayan observatories of Central America, there is a persistent pattern. Ancient priests, regardless of culture or geography, appear to have shared a common understanding that the flow of human history, the rise and fall of civilizations, the dance of the cosmos, could be read and perhaps even foretold. They recorded their visions in scrolls, etched them into stone, painted them onto walls, and wove them into mythologies, often encoding these messages in symbols that only the initiated could decipher. It is tempting and indeed comforting to dismiss these ideas as superstition, the ramblings of religious zealots, or the fanciful imaginings of our ancestors. Mainstream history, with its focus on political events, kings, and battles, rarely gives credence to the idea that the ancients possessed a sophisticated understanding of the future. But the more one examines the evidence, the alignment of pyramids with constellations, the precision of Mayan calendars, the consistency of certain myths across continents, the harder it becomes to ignore the possibility that something extraordinary was taking place. These whispers from the past suggest that time itself was seen not as a linear path, but as a cyclical, interconnected web. Events were not random, but part of a larger cosmic rhythm, and those trained to perceive it could glimpse the threads of destiny stretching across centuries. The priests of old may have been warning us, teaching us, or simply recording what they saw in hopes that future generations might recognize the signs. Yet, despite the countless civilizations that have risen and fallen, so much of this knowledge has been buried, destroyed, or dismissed as mere legend. But what if these forgotten oracles left clues that have survived? What if the monuments we walk past every day, the art we admire in museums, and the stories we tell in folklore are more than mere remnants of a primitive imagination? What if they are coded messages, waiting to be interpreted, filled with predictions that span millennia? The idea is at once thrilling and unsettling. Humanity may have been guided, warned, or even manipulated by insights from an age that predates recorded history as we know it. To begin understanding these mysteries, one must start by looking closer. Look at the pyramids not just as tombs, but as star maps. Consider the sacred texts not simply as religious doctrine, but as potential records of events yet to come. And pay attention to the myths that recur in different cultures, separated by oceans and continents, yet echoing similar themes of cosmic upheaval, great floods, and the rise and fall of empires. Each of these elements may contain fragments of prophecy, whispered across time by those who believe that the future could be seen if only one knew how to read the signs. In this journey, we will explore the hidden knowledge of these ancient priests. We will delve into temples where sunlight falls upon specific hieroglyphs only on certain days, revealing secret messages. We will examine texts that hint at events centuries before they occurred. We will trace the footprints of civilizations that seem to have been aware of cycles of time far beyond the comprehension of ordinary humans. And perhaps most unsettlingly, we will ask ourselves whether some of the predictions that were made long ago are still influencing the course of our world today, invisible yet undeniable. The story begins with curiosity, but quickly becomes a delicate dance between revelation and skepticism. Because while the evidence may point to extraordinary insight, it also challenges the very foundations of how we understand history. Did these priests merely record events? Or did they somehow foresee them? Were they the dreamers of improbable tales, or the architects of hidden truths, leaving breadcrumbs for future generations to follow? The answers are not simple, but the quest to uncover them is what drives our exploration. As we begin this journey, remember that these are whispers from the past, messages hidden in plain sight, waiting for someone to notice. Some may dismiss them as coincidence. Others may fear the implications of what they reveal. But for those willing to see, the signs are there, etched in stone, written on papyrus, hidden in the rhythms of the heavens. And it is here, in the shadows between myth and history, that the story of prophecy begins, a story that stretches across continents, centuries, and perhaps the very fate of humanity itself. Long before the first empires arose or written history began to take shape, there were those who observed patterns. Patterns in the heavens, patterns in the seasons, patterns in the very lives of men and women. These observers were often priests, shamans, and spiritual guides, charged not only with leading rituals, but with safeguarding and understanding of time itself. They were the stewards of cycles that transcended generations, watching the rise and fall of kings, the ebb and flow of rivers, and the alignment of stars, keeping meticulous records in ways that modern historians are only beginning to grasp. In civilizations such as Sumer, Egypt, and the Indus Valley, priests held a position of immense power. They were not merely ceremonial figures. They were mathematicians, astronomers, and astrologers, blending observation with interpretation. Every festival, every sacrifice, every building erected in their name was carefully aligned with celestial events, eclipses, solstices, and planetary conjunctions. These were not random acts of devotion, but deliberate acts of timing, designed to resonate with the cosmos. In essence, these priests were guardians of knowledge that intertwined human affairs with cosmic rhythms, encoding wisdom that would survive long after their deaths. Consider the priests of ancient Egypt, who studied the stars not merely for navigation or agriculture, but to track the cycles of time and anticipate cosmic events. Their knowledge extended far beyond the mundane. They recorded the rising and setting of Sirius, correlating it with the flooding of the Nile, which in turn dictated the survival of their civilization. In their temples, inscriptions and hieroglyphs were layered with dual meanings. Historical, yes, but also symbolic, pointing toward events that might unfold centuries in the future. The alignment of pyramids, the orientation of temples, and the placement of statues all followed precise astronomical calculations, suggesting that these priests were tracking a timeline far longer than that of any human lifespan. Thousands of miles away, the Mayan priests developed an equally sophisticated understanding of cycles. The long count calendar, often misrepresented in popular culture, was far more than a simple record of days. It was a complex system capable of predicting solar and lunar eclipses, planetary movements, and perhaps even significant socio-political changes. The Maya observed the heavens with meticulous care, interpreting these patterns as a map not only of the cosmos, but of time itself. They recorded their observations in codices filled with glyphs that, for centuries, remained indecipherable, holding hidden warnings and prophecies that spoke to events yet to come. Even in Europe, the Druids functioned as guardians of secret knowledge. Their sacred groves and ritual sites were aligned with solstices and equinoxes, creating living observatories that encoded the passage of time in natural forms. While their teachings were oral, passing from mentor to apprentice, they carried a profound understanding of cyclical history, of human nature, and of the connection between the material and the celestial. Across continents and cultures, priests shared a common understanding. The unfolding of human events could be traced and perhaps even influenced through careful observation and ritual. But why were these individuals so obsessed with time? The answer lies in the dual nature of their role. They were both observers and protectors. By understanding cosmic cycles and human behavior, priests could guide their societies, offering warnings, rituals, or interventions intended to align humanity with a natural order. Their knowledge gave them authority, but it also came with responsibility, a responsibility to encode and preserve insights that would guide generations far beyond their own. They were, in many ways, the original historians, astronomers, and prophets rolled into one. What is particularly striking is the universality of this phenomenon. Across vastly different cultures separated by oceans and mountains, priests independently developed similar methods of observing time, tracking celestial bodies, and encoding their findings in ritualistic and symbolic forms. This suggests that there was more at work than mere coincidence, a shared understanding, perhaps even a universal language of prophecy that transcended cultural boundaries. Could it be that ancient societies, through their priests, were tapping into a knowledge so deep that modern science is only now beginning to uncover its principles? Yet, much of this wisdom was deliberately hidden. Priests often encoded their knowledge in symbols, numbers, and allegories, understandable only to the initiated. Sacred texts were written in complex scripts, sometimes on perishable materials that would not survive the centuries, while monumental architecture served as lasting records of cosmic and temporal knowledge. These methods of concealment ensured that only those trained to understand the codes could access the insights, protecting the information from misuse or misinterpretation. It is here, in the careful guardianship of time, that we begin to see the seeds of what would become prophecy. Priests were not simply guessing the future. They were observing patterns, extrapolating cycles, and embedding warnings and predictions into cultural memory. Their knowledge was both practical, guiding agriculture, governance, and survival, and mystical, connecting human life to a cosmic order far beyond the comprehension of the uninitiated. As we trace their influence across continents and centuries, a compelling picture emerges. These priests were the first keepers of humanity's hidden history, holding in their minds and in their sacred spaces the encoded knowledge of past and future alike. Their work challenges the conventional narrative of history as a linear march of kings and battles. Instead, it suggests a more intricate design, where events are interconnected and where human destiny is both observed and, perhaps, subtly guided by those who understood the patterns of time. In exploring the role of these ancient guardians, we begin to realize that prophecy was not a mystical act detached from reality, but a natural extension of meticulous observation, calculation, and interpretation. The priests of old were not merely seers of visions. They were scientists of the cosmos, archivists of history, and custodians of secrets that could shape entire civilizations. And as we continue this journey, we will see how their knowledge, carefully encoded and passed down through hidden channels, continues to whisper to us across the ages, messages that remain in plain sight, waiting to be discovered by those who dare to look closely enough. From the deserts of Egypt to the jungles of Central America, from the plains of Mesopotamia to the sacred mountains of Asia, ancient civilizations left behind texts that appear mundane at first glance, but reveal astonishing foresight when examined closely. These prophetic writings, often hidden in sacred scrolls, inscriptions, or codices, were more than mere records. They were attempts to interpret the cosmos, human behavior, and the cycles of history. Across cultures separated by continents and millennia, striking similarities emerge, suggesting that ancient peoples shared not only an understanding of natural phenomena, but also an awareness of the predictive power of knowledge itself. In Mesopotamia, some of the earliest prophetic texts are the Babylonian Omen tablets. Carved meticulously into clay, these tablets cataloged celestial events, lunar eclipses, planetary conjunctions, and solar cycles, interpreted as omens influencing political, environmental, and social events. Kings and priests relied on these texts to anticipate everything from droughts and invasions to shifts in leadership. Numbers, stars, and rituals were combined in a carefully structured system. A warning encoded as a celestial observation, a cycle of time translated into actionable guidance. Modern scholars have marveled at the accuracy and sophistication of these predictions, revealing an ancient intelligence deeply attuned to the patterns of both sky and society. In Egypt, prophecy intertwined with religion and statecraft. The pyramid texts, coffin texts, and later the Book of the Dead were ostensibly guides to the afterlife, but they also contained coded wisdom about earthly cycles. Within these texts, celestial events, seasonal shifts, and political patterns were linked to divine principles, offering priests and rulers guidance on everything from agricultural timing to the maintenance of societal order. By encoding prophecy within a spiritual framework, these civilizations ensured that knowledge was preserved across generations, safeguarded within sacred rituals and texts that demanded careful study and initiation to interpret correctly. Meanwhile, in India, Vedic and Puranic texts reveal an equally sophisticated use of prophecy. The cyclical concept of time, expressed through yugas, posits recurring periods of cosmic and societal rise and decline. Within these texts, numbers, astronomical events, and moral patterns are intertwined to anticipate the future of kingdoms and human behavior. The Rig Veda and other Vedic hymns contain complex astronomical references, suggesting that early seers were not merely spiritual guides, but precise observers of the cosmos, translating celestial patterns into moral and predictive frameworks for society. Across the Atlantic, the Maya and other Mesoamerican civilizations developed codices that map time with incredible precision. The Dresden Codex, for instance, contains detailed observations of Venus, eclipses, and lunar cycles, alongside predictions about agricultural patterns and societal events. Far from being simple records, these codices were instruments of prophecy, blending observation, numerology, and ritual practice into an integrated system that guided decision-making and reflected a deep understanding of cyclical time. Mayan priests encoded these predictions in complex glyphs, ensuring that only those trained in their language and symbolism could fully interpret the wisdom within. Even in distant China, the I Ching, or Book of Changes, demonstrates the enduring human desire to foresee and understand patterns. Using symbolic hexagrams, the text provides guidance on potential outcomes, blending philosophical insight with predictive frameworks. The I Ching was not merely a tool for divination. It was a structured method for analyzing events, relationships, and cycles, reflecting a belief that human behavior and natural phenomena were interconnected and could be interpreted through observation and symbolic reasoning. A striking feature across these civilizations is the blending of the mystical and the empirical. Prophetic texts rarely relied on mere speculation. They incorporated careful observation, calculation, and documentation. Astronomical cycles, numerical patterns, and environmental phenomena were encoded in ritual and language, providing both practical guidance and symbolic meaning. Prophecy was a bridge, linking the physical and spiritual, the observed and the anticipated, the human and the cosmic. These texts also reveal a deliberate concern with preservation and secrecy. Many prophetic works were restricted to priests, scribes, or initiates. They were written in complex scripts, coded languages, or glyphs designed to resist casual reading, ensuring that only those trained to understand their layered meanings could access the full scope of their knowledge. This secrecy created resilience. While many civilizations fell and texts were lost or destroyed, fragments survived, encoded in artifacts, oral traditions, or hidden manuscripts, waiting to be rediscovered by future generations capable of interpretation. Modern researchers continue to uncover these hidden patterns, revealing astonishing continuity and sophistication. By analyzing celestial references, numerological codes, and linguistic structures, scholars are piecing together how ancient peoples anticipated eclipses, seasonal cycles, political events, and societal shifts. These discoveries challenge assumptions that prophecy was merely mystical or symbolic. Instead, they suggest that ancient civilizations developed precise, integrated systems for observing, recording, and predicting the dynamics of the world around them. Ultimately, prophetic texts across civilizations form a tapestry of human ingenuity. Despite geographic and temporal separation, they reveal shared principles: observation of the cosmos, recognition of cyclical patterns, integration of symbolic and practical knowledge, and the careful transmission of wisdom across generations. These texts remind us that ancient peoples were not passive recorders of events. They were active interpreters of time, society, and the cosmos, encoding knowledge in ways that continue to challenge and inspire modern understanding. By examining these prophetic texts, we begin to see a hidden continuity running through human history. Knowledge, foresight, and the desire to understand cycles of existence were not limited to one civilization. They were universal. Whether inscribed on clay, carved in stone, written on palm leaves, or painted in codices, prophetic texts connect the past to the present, offering a glimpse into the minds of those who sought to make sense of the universe and leave guidance for the generations that would follow. In the shadowed halls of antiquity, there existed a tradition of writing not simply to record history, but to anticipate the future. Across civilizations, priests, scribes, and scholars meticulously documented events, not only as they occurred but as they might unfold, embedding layers of prophecy within their texts. These writings were never meant for casual reading. They were dense, symbolic, and often intentionally ambiguous, designed to conceal their full meaning from the uninitiated while leaving a roadmap of cosmic patterns and future events for those trained to interpret them. Consider the pyramid texts of ancient Egypt, some of the oldest religious writings in human history. To the casual observer, they appear as rituals and prayers for the deceased pharaohs, ensuring safe passage to the afterlife. But closer examination reveals references to celestial phenomena, cycles of kingship, and warnings of chaos and upheaval. Inscriptions that may encode both historical events and potential futures. Certain passages describe floods, foreign invasions, or periods of societal disruption, phrased as mythic narratives but suspiciously precise in their chronology. These texts suggest that Egyptian priests saw time as a continuum, where the past, present, and future interlocked, and where knowledge of one could illuminate the others. Thousands of miles away, in the jungles of Central America, Mayan codices serve a similar purpose. Hidden in fragile bark paper books and carefully preserved by priests, these texts contain astronomical observations, ritual instructions, and calendrical calculations intertwined with cryptic prophecies. They map cycles of Venus, the sun, and lunar eclipses, often in tandem with warnings of societal change or natural disaster. Some scholars have argued that the Maya may have even predicted phenomena such as droughts or solar events with remarkable accuracy, encoding their warnings in a way that only future generations with the proper knowledge could decode. Then there are the Sibylline books of ancient Rome, legendary collections of prophecies consulted by the Senate in times of crisis. Their origin is shrouded in myth, but these texts were revered as containing messages from the divine, offering guidance and warning for generations of leaders. Though fragments remain and much of their content has been lost, historical accounts suggest that the Sibylline books contain predictions of wars, plagues, and political upheaval, each veiled in allegory and symbolic language. The true significance of these prophecies may have been far greater than the fragments that survived, hinting at knowledge deliberately safeguarded and selectively revealed. The Babylonians, too, contributed to this tradition. Clay tablets, etched with cuneiform script, reveal intricate astronomical calculations alongside predictions of kings, invasions, and cosmic events. Some tablets describe celestial omens, comets, eclipses, planetary conjunctions, as signs heralding specific outcomes on Earth. These texts suggest that Babylonian priests possessed both an understanding of astronomy and a belief in its prophetic implications, bridging empirical observation and mystical interpretation. What is striking across all these cultures is the careful layering of meaning. Prophecies were rarely straightforward. They employed allegory, myth, and symbolism to conceal their significance. A flood might represent not only a literal natural disaster, but also societal collapse, a shift in power, or a cosmic realignment. A celestial event might mark a political upheaval or a religious transformation. This duality of meaning was deliberate, allowing the text to serve as both a spiritual guide and a practical warning system. The priests who wrote and interpreted these scrolls understood that knowledge of the future is both powerful and dangerous. Concealment was as important as revelation. Interpretation was, of course, everything. A prophecy left unexamined was useless. Misread, it could be catastrophic. This is why these texts were often restricted to select individuals within the priesthood. The ability to decode symbolic language, to align it with celestial movements or ritual practices, was a skill cultivated over years of study. Many of these writings also included keys in the form of repeated symbols, numerical patterns, or ritual instructions, guiding the initiated toward understanding without ever making the message fully transparent to outsiders. Despite the centuries that have passed, fragments of these prophetic texts continue to captivate scholars, historians, and mystics alike. Some prophecies appear eerily prescient, describing events centuries after they were first written. This raises profound questions. Were the ancients merely lucky observers of patterns, or did they possess a level of insight into the mechanics of time and civilization that modern science is only beginning to glimpse? In some cases, the precision of predictions, combined with the sophistication of astronomical and mathematical knowledge, suggests deliberate foresight rather than coincidence. Yet much of this knowledge has been lost, hidden, or deliberately destroyed. Libraries burned, texts lost to decay, and centuries of conquest erased entire traditions. What remains are fragments, cryptic symbols, and references in other works. Even so, the surviving texts hint at a profound understanding of history and destiny, a record of human experience interpreted through the lens of cosmic cycles. They challenge the conventional notion of prophecy as purely mystical or supernatural, suggesting instead that it was grounded in observation, calculation, and deep insight into patterns that transcend generations. Modern researchers have only begun to scratch the surface. Advances in archaeology, linguistics, and astronomy allow us to decode texts that were once indecipherable. Alignments of celestial events described in ancient codices can now be verified with software, showing astonishing accuracy. Historical events mentioned in seemingly mythic language can be correlated with archaeological evidence. Each new discovery reinforces the notion that these texts were far more than religious ritual. They were a means of encoding the knowledge of time, cycles, and potential futures for those capable of understanding it. As we delve deeper into the story of prophetic texts, it becomes clear that these scrolls and codices are far more than historical artifacts. They are threads connecting the present to the distant past, encoded by individuals who sought to understand the rhythm of human history and the movements of the cosmos. They remind us that the past is not merely a record of what has happened, but a blueprint for what may come. They whisper of a knowledge hidden in plain sight, waiting for those with the patience, insight, and courage to read it. In the sections that follow, we will explore how these prophetic texts intersect with architecture, symbolism, and astronomical observation, forming a network of knowledge designed to endure beyond the lifetimes of those who created it. The priests who recorded these prophecies may have been aware that their societies would rise and fall, that their writings might be misunderstood or lost. Yet, through deliberate encoding and careful preservation, they ensured that the messages could survive, ready to speak to anyone willing to listen. A message from the past that challenges our understanding of time, history, and the nature of foresight itself. Throughout history, knowledge has always been a double-edged sword. Powerful, transformative, and yet fragile, vulnerable to decay, conquest, and deliberate suppression. For the ancient priests, who carefully observed the cycles of the cosmos, recorded prophecies, and encoded warnings into texts, temples, and monuments. The survival of their wisdom was never guaranteed. Across continents, empires, and millennia, vast libraries and repositories of sacred knowledge were lost, some to fire, others to neglect, and yet others to deliberate destruction. Each loss represents not merely a missing record of the past, but potentially centuries of insight into the rhythms of time, human behavior, and cosmic prophecy. Few examples capture the magnitude of these losses as vividly as the Great Library of Alexandria. Founded in the 3rd century BCE, it was envisioned as a repository for all human knowledge, a place where scholars could study the secrets of the heavens, the intricacies of mathematics, and the texts of distant civilizations. For centuries, it was the beating heart of intellectual inquiry, housing scrolls that contained not only history but philosophical treatises, astronomical observations, and perhaps even prophetic records. Yet, as history would have it, fires, political upheaval, and neglect reduced this monumental collection to ashes, erasing countless works that may have held secrets still unfathomed today. What knowledge was lost in those flames? What prophecies, what patterns of time, what cosmic insights disappeared, leaving only fragments behind for us to puzzle over? The story repeats across the ancient world. In Mesopotamia, the royal libraries of Nineveh contained tablets filled with astronomical data, ritual instructions, and coded predictions. The Assyrian Empire, with its meticulous bureaucracy, had scribes who chronicled both history and potential futures. Yet centuries of war, invasion, and abandonment left these records buried and broken. Only fragments survive, scattered among archaeological sites, waiting for modern scholars to piece them together. Each fragment is a whisper from the past, hinting at knowledge that was far more extensive and systematic than conventional history allows. Even the religious traditions we study today hint at libraries of knowledge now lost. The Dead Sea Scrolls, for example, discovered in caves near Qumran, contain writings that illuminate esoteric practices, calendar systems, and cryptic prophecies of their time. They offer glimpses of texts that may have once existed in greater numbers, carefully preserved by priestly sects, only to be lost due to persecution, decay, or secrecy. Each surviving scroll reminds us that knowledge was never merely written. It was safeguarded, guarded by those who understood its fragility and power. The deliberate concealment of knowledge is as intriguing as its accidental destruction. Many priestly orders, secret societies, and religious sects created methods to protect what they believed was sacred or dangerous information. Texts were encoded in ciphers, carved in hidden chambers, or inscribed in metaphors designed to be understood only by the initiated. This secrecy ensured that knowledge could survive beyond the reach of those who might misuse it or fail to comprehend its significance. It also adds to the mystery of the lost libraries. Perhaps some of the wisdom is not truly lost, but hidden in plain sight, waiting for someone capable of decoding it. Across Asia, libraries in ancient India and China also suffered similar fates. Manuscripts on astronomy, mathematics, medicine, and prophecy were housed in monasteries and courts, but were lost during invasions, dynastic collapses, and natural disasters. The surviving texts, like the Vedic scriptures or the I Ching, offer tantalizing glimpses of a much larger body of knowledge, carefully observed and preserved for centuries. These fragments reveal a universal thread. Across civilizations, priests and scholars understood the importance of recording not just what had happened, but patterns that might inform the future. What is particularly striking is the persistence of hidden knowledge despite such losses. Even when entire libraries were destroyed, certain traditions survived through oral transmission, architectural symbolism, and ritual practice. The memory of prophecies and cosmic codes often persisted in myths, legends, and ceremonial practices, encoded in ways that modern scholars are only beginning to decode. Stone monuments, sacred sites, and artworks became repositories of information, carrying messages across generations even when written texts vanished. The ancients understood that knowledge must adapt to survive, moving beyond paper and ink into the very landscape and culture of humanity. The loss of these libraries also highlights a deeper tension between revelation and suppression. Knowledge, particularly knowledge that challenges the established order, has always been considered dangerous. Conquerors, religious authorities, and political regimes often sought to control information, destroying texts that could empower rivals or disrupt societal narratives. The ancient priests, aware of this, encoded their wisdom in ways that could survive centuries of upheaval, creating layers of protection that blurred the line between public ritual and private instruction. In many cases, what we now consider myth or legend may have been a deliberate strategy to preserve truth under the guise of story. Modern archaeology and scholarship continue to uncover fragments of these lost libraries, revealing glimpses of a world where priests not only recorded events but anticipated them. Astronomical tables, ritual manuals, and cryptic texts hint at patterns and prophecies that span centuries. Each discovery underscores the sophistication of these ancient custodians of knowledge and the fragility of what we now consider history. It is a reminder that what survives is often a small fraction of what was once known, and that the majority of wisdom may remain hidden, lost to time, or intentionally concealed. As we explore the hidden legacies of these lost libraries, a compelling question emerges. What if the prophecies, the cosmic codes, and the knowledge of cycles were far more advanced than we imagine? What if civilizations long gone had insights into history, society, and the cosmos that modern humanity has yet to fully grasp? The fragments we possess are only hints, suggesting a vast, interconnected network of knowledge carefully preserved by priests who understood the delicate balance between revelation and concealment. In the next sections, we will examine how this secret knowledge was encoded in architecture, ritual, and symbolism, extending the reach of lost libraries beyond scrolls and tablets. The wisdom of the ancients was not confined to ink and clay. It was embedded in the very structures, stars, and stories of their world. The surviving monuments, texts, and artifacts are not mere relics. They are the fingerprints of minds who sought to understand time, predict the future, and leave messages for generations yet unborn. The story of the lost libraries is not only a tale of destruction, but a testament to the enduring human drive to preserve knowledge against the relentless march of time. Walk through the ruins of an ancient temple or glance at the soaring spires of a medieval cathedral, and it may appear at first as nothing more than monumental artistry, the handiwork of skilled builders. But look closer, and the structures themselves begin to whisper secrets. Every column, every arch, every alignment carries meaning beyond its immediate function. For the priests and architects of antiquity, buildings were more than shelter or display. They were vessels of knowledge, codices in stone, designed to preserve hidden messages and prophecies across centuries. Take the Great Pyramid of Giza as an example. Its precise alignment with the cardinal points is remarkable, but even more fascinating are the narrow shafts that point toward specific stars, such as Sirius and Orion's belt. These were not decorative choices. They were deliberate, astronomical markers that connected the earthly domain to the cosmos. Within these alignments, priests embedded subtle messages, reminders of cycles of time, records of celestial events, and even symbolic instructions for future generations. The pyramid was not just a tomb. It was a monumental calendar, a machine of encoded knowledge, and a silent oracle, standing for millennia in the desert sun. Across the world, Mayan temples reveal a similar intentionality. Step pyramids, such as those at Chichen Itza, are aligned with solstices and equinoxes, and their stairways and carvings encode calendrical and astronomical data. On the day of the equinox, the setting sun casts shadows that create the illusion of a serpent slithering down the pyramid steps, a symbolic event that is both aesthetic and informative. Mayan priests used these structures to encode knowledge, preserve ritual instructions, and communicate warnings about cosmic and terrestrial cycles. Here, architecture itself becomes a medium for prophecy, a coded language accessible to those trained to read it. European cathedrals, too, hide layers of meaning. Gothic builders incorporated sacred geometry, astronomical markers, and symbolic iconography into their structures. Every window, arch, and floor pattern could reference biblical events, celestial alignments, or moral instruction. Beyond religious function, these spaces encode lessons about cycles of time, human behavior, and the relationship between heaven and earth. The cathedrals stand as testaments to the idea that architecture can be a vessel of hidden knowledge, capable of transmitting complex information across centuries. Even smaller structures, such as temples, shrines, or ritual platforms, carry deliberate symbolic weight. The orientation of entrances, the height of columns, and the placement of statues often correspond to celestial or seasonal events. A doorway might align with sunrise on a specific day, marking a cosmic festival or ritual event. A wall carving might only become fully visible during a particular lunar phase, revealing hidden instructions or warnings. These architectural choices were intentional, designed to encode information for those who understood the language of symbols and the rhythm of the heavens. Geometry plays a particularly important role in architectural encoding. Triangles, circles, spirals, and squares appear repeatedly, often layered with multiple meanings. Circles might represent eternity or the cyclical nature of time, while triangles could symbolize a triad of past, present, and future. Spirals suggest expansion and contraction, patterns that echo both in human history and in cosmic cycles. Through the careful placement of shapes and alignment of structures, priests and builders created a form of architectural literacy, a language of space, proportion, and alignment that could communicate hidden knowledge without uttering a single word. In some cases, architectural codes intersect with written texts, creating multi-layered systems of knowledge. A temple inscription might reference a celestial event, while the building itself provides the physical manifestation of that alignment. Combined with ritual and observation, these structures allowed priests to encode complex information, astronomical predictions, historical cycles, and even warnings of societal upheaval. Architecture thus becomes not only a cultural or religious artifact, but a repository of hidden wisdom, enduring long after the civilizations that built it have vanished. What is particularly compelling is the universality of this practice. Across continents, cultures, and eras, humans independently developed the idea that buildings could encode knowledge. From Egypt to Mesoamerica, from Europe to Asia, priests and architects understood that knowledge could be preserved in space as well as in text. Even when libraries were destroyed or texts were lost, these structures survived, standing as silent witnesses to the wisdom of the past. The ancients recognized that stone and geometry could endure where papyrus and scrolls might decay. Modern scholars have only begun to scratch the surface of these architectural codes. Sophisticated software and astronomical modeling now allow researchers to verify alignments with precision, revealing patterns that were previously invisible. Yet much of the meaning remains elusive. Many of these messages are deliberately cryptic, designed to be interpreted only by those trained in the symbolic and astronomical language of their culture. The challenge lies in decoding intent, understanding context, and appreciating the interplay between the spiritual, astronomical, and practical dimensions of ancient construction. Ultimately, these hidden messages remind us that knowledge is not confined to text alone. Architecture can serve as a bridge between generations, encoding lessons, warnings, and prophecies in ways that transcend language. The buildings of the past are more than monuments. They are repositories of wisdom, deliberately crafted to endure, to teach, and to guide. To walk among them is to step into a dialogue with the ancients, to encounter knowledge encoded in stone, proportion, and shadow, waiting for those with eyes to see and insight to understand. In the next sections, we will explore how these architectural codes intertwine with sacred symbols, astronomical observation, and prophetic texts, forming a multidimensional web of hidden knowledge. The story of human history is not only written in words, but carved in stone, designed to survive the ravages of time, guiding those who know how to read it. The ancients, through their temples, pyramids, and sacred structures, left messages in plain sight, messages that still whisper across centuries, waiting to be deciphered. For the ancient priests, prophecy was not merely an abstract concept or a passive observation of events. It was an active, lived practice. Knowledge of cycles, celestial alignments, and hidden truths was preserved and transmitted through rituals that blended precision, symbolism, and spiritual discipline. These esoteric rituals were far more than religious ceremonies. They were sophisticated methods for safeguarding and transmitting prophetic wisdom, ensuring that knowledge could survive even in times of upheaval or conquest. In many ancient cultures, rituals were tightly intertwined with astronomy. The Egyptians, for instance, timed ceremonies to coincide with the heliacal rising of Sirius, a moment that heralded the annual flooding of the Nile. Such events were not only practical markers for agricultural planning, but also symbolic enactments of cosmic cycles, reinforcing the priest's understanding of time and fate. Rituals acted as living calendars, encoding knowledge of cycles into performative acts that could be passed from one generation of initiates to the next. Every chant, every movement, every offering was calculated to preserve and reinforce understanding of the universe's hidden patterns. Similarly, in Mesoamerica, Mayan priests performed elaborate ceremonies at step pyramids during solstices and equinoxes. These rituals aligned human activity with celestial events, creating a tangible link between the microcosm of society and the macrocosm of the heavens. The timing, gestures, and symbolism of these ceremonies were meticulously recorded, ensuring that knowledge of celestial and temporal cycles could endure. Through repetitive enactment, prophecy became embedded in the collective memory of the priesthood, transforming abstract understanding into practical, actionable wisdom. The preservation of prophecy also relied on secrecy. Esoteric rituals were typically restricted to initiated members of the priesthood. The knowledge encoded within them was considered too powerful or dangerous for ordinary citizens. Initiates underwent years of training, learning the meanings behind symbols, chants, and gestures. Only through careful study and disciplined practice could they access the full depth of the wisdom being transmitted. In this way, rituals served as both a teaching tool and a protective measure, safeguarding information across generations. Beyond observation and timing, many rituals incorporated symbolic reenactments of historical and prophetic events. In Egyptian temples, for example, the reenactment of the journey of the sun god Ra mirrored cosmic cycles, conveying lessons about the rhythm of life, death, and rebirth. These performances were not mere storytelling. They were encoded lessons designed to internalize the priest's understanding of cycles and patterns. Similarly, in European mystery cults, initiates underwent symbolic deaths and rebirths, rituals that encoded moral, spiritual, and cosmic knowledge within the framework of mythic storytelling. Through these acts, prophecy was preserved not only in text or stone, but within the lived experience of participants. The complexity of esoteric rituals is evident in their integration with sacred architecture. Temples, pyramids, and ceremonial platforms were often constructed to serve specific ritual functions, aligned with celestial events and seasonal cycles. The physical space reinforced the symbolic meaning of the rituals performed within it. An initiate performing a ceremony in such a space was simultaneously engaging with encoded knowledge, participating in cosmic cycles, and preserving prophecy. Architecture, ritual, and observation merged into a single, multidimensional system for safeguarding hidden wisdom. Initiates were also trained to interpret omens and signs within these rituals. Shadows, reflections, the movement of the sun, and even the behavior of participants could all be read as indicators of future events. These practices illustrate a sophisticated understanding of symbolism, observation, and interpretation, skills that allowed priests to connect earthly phenomena with cosmic rhythms and prophetic knowledge. The rituals were living laboratories, combining experiential learning with encoded wisdom to ensure the continuity of understanding across generations. Many rituals incorporated the use of symbolic objects, staffs, stones, masks, or sacred vessels, each carrying layers of meaning. These objects were not decorative. They were functional tools for encoding and transmitting prophecy. The positioning, movement, or use of these objects could reveal hidden knowledge, link participants to cosmic cycles, or mark significant temporal events. Each element of the ritual was intentional, part of a holistic system for preserving and transmitting insights that might otherwise be lost to time or human error. Even when civilizations fell, these rituals and their encoded wisdom often survived through oral traditions, secret societies, or underground networks of initiates. Stories of mystical orders, hidden rites, and sacred mysteries reflect the persistence of esoteric knowledge long after the collapse of the societies that created them. The layered nature of ritual, text, and symbolism ensured that prophecy could endure, adaptable to different contexts while remaining fundamentally intact. Through these esoteric rituals, prophecy became both practical and mystical. It was a guide to action, a tool for aligning human behavior with cosmic patterns, and a method for internalizing the understanding of time and fate. The priests, through disciplined study, precise observation, and performative enactment, ensured that knowledge could be transmitted across centuries, surviving the erosion of libraries, the destruction of temples, and the loss of civilizations. Ultimately, the rituals of the ancient priests reveal a world in which knowledge, prophecy, and human experience were inseparable. Time was not linear, but cyclical, and understanding its patterns required a combination of observation, symbolism, and disciplined practice. These esoteric practices were the lifeblood of hidden wisdom, allowing generations to access insights that might otherwise have been lost. The legacy of these rituals remains etched in monuments, texts, and cultural memory, waiting for those who know how to interpret the signs and continue the dialogue with the past. Throughout history, knowledge has always been power, and power has always been dangerous. For the ancient priests, scribes, and mystics, the secrets of prophecy were not meant for everyone. Only those initiated into specific orders, trained to interpret symbols, texts, and celestial codes, could access the full depth of this hidden wisdom. Over time, these initiates coalesced into secret societies, carefully organized networks tasked with preserving, protecting, and sometimes controlling access to prophetic knowledge. These societies became the custodians of what we now call esoteric wisdom, operating in shadows, often misunderstood, sometimes feared. From the mystery schools of ancient Egypt to the Rosicrucians of Renaissance Europe, secret societies emerged wherever knowledge needed safeguarding. These organizations shared a common principle. Prophecy was not merely for entertainment or divine curiosity. It was a tool for understanding time, cycles, and human destiny. By carefully guarding what they knew, these groups maintained influence over the rulers, civilizations, and historical events around them. The line between spiritual guidance and political power was thin, and those who held the keys to hidden knowledge often wielded subtle yet immense influence. The Egyptian priesthood offers an early example of structured secrecy. Within temples, only certain initiates were allowed to enter sacred chambers or handle ritual objects. Hieroglyphs and architectural alignments encoded warnings, astronomical observations, and historical patterns, but their meaning was accessible only to those who had undergone rigorous training. These secretive practices were a form of social control as well as preservation, ensuring that the wisdom of the past and the foresight of prophecy could guide society while remaining shielded from misuse. In classical Greece, mystery cults such as the Eleusinian Mysteries continued this tradition. Initiates were exposed to allegorical rituals, symbolic texts, and celestial observations, all of which contained encoded teachings about life, death, and the cycles of time. While the details were shrouded in secrecy, the effect was profound. initiates internalized a sophisticated understanding of cosmic and human rhythms. These societies functioned as living libraries, transmitting prophetic insight through ritual, allegory, and careful mentorship. During the Renaissance, secret societies became even more formalized. Groups like the Rosicrucians and later Freemasons claimed access to ancient wisdom, including knowledge of hidden prophecies and celestial codes. They studied mathematics, astronomy, and sacred texts, often linking them with architectural and artistic symbolism. In many cases, these societies acted as guardians of knowledge suppressed by prevailing political or religious powers. By embedding their understanding in ritual, art, and architecture, they ensured that prophetic insights could survive, even if public access was restricted. What is particularly fascinating is the universality of these networks. Across continents and eras, secret societies consistently appeared wherever the preservation of prophecy and hidden knowledge was necessary. In China, Taoist sects guarded esoteric texts on cosmology and medicine. In India, Tantric schools preserved layered insights into spiritual and cosmic patterns. In Europe and the Middle East, mystical orders protected sacred texts, astronomical tables, and ritual instructions. Despite cultural differences, the goal was the same: to safeguard knowledge that could not survive in the open. These societies also served as interpreters of prophecy. Ancient texts, symbols, and astronomical codes could be incomprehensible without guidance. Initiates learned to decode metaphors, numerology, and allegory, connecting celestial events with societal patterns. By doing so, they became living conduits of predictive knowledge, capable of advising leaders or communities on actions that aligned with cosmic cycles. Prophecy, in this sense, was not static. It was interactive, requiring study, interpretation, and practical application. Secrecy was crucial because knowledge is vulnerable. Empires rise and fall, rulers change, and texts can be destroyed. By embedding wisdom in initiatory orders, ritual, and secret networks, these societies created resilient channels for prophecy. They preserved information across centuries, often hiding it in plain sight through coded texts, symbolic architecture, or allegorical stories. This duality, concealment and transmission, ensured continuity. What appeared as legend or myth to outsiders was, in reality, a sophisticated system for passing down prophetic knowledge across generations. The influence of these societies is subtle yet profound. Some historians argue that secret orders shaped the course of history by selectively sharing or interpreting prophetic knowledge. Whether advising kings, influencing religious movements, or guiding societal practices, their actions suggest a long-standing relationship between prophecy and power. Knowledge, carefully guarded and selectively applied, became a tool for shaping events while remaining invisible to the masses. Even today, echoes of these societies remain. Freemasons, Rosicrucians, and other esoteric organizations claim continuity with ancient traditions. Their rituals, symbols, and teachings reflect centuries of preserved wisdom, including lessons drawn from celestial codes, prophetic texts, and architectural alignment. While much remains secret, the persistence of these networks hints at a continuous thread of knowledge, linking the ancient guardians of prophecy to modern seekers. By examining secret societies, we begin to understand how prophecy was not simply a mystical curiosity, but a living system, sustained through ritual, mentorship, and coded knowledge. These groups remind us that knowledge is fragile yet resilient, that the past holds patterns deliberately preserved for the future, and that the ancients understood cycles of time far beyond the linear narrative of conventional history. Secret societies were the vessels, the stewards, and sometimes the gatekeepers of prophecy, ensuring that hidden wisdom could endure despite the chaos of human civilization. Throughout history, certain prophetic writings and symbolic records have stunned scholars and mystics alike, not merely for their spiritual or allegorical depth, but for their uncanny accuracy in predicting the rise and fall of empires, natural disasters, and societal upheavals. These prophecies, recorded in texts, inscriptions, and ceremonial codes, suggest that ancient priests and scribes were far more than passive observers. They were sophisticated interpreters of patterns, cycles, and cosmic rhythms, capable of seeing events unfold centuries before they arrived. In Mesopotamia, the Enuma Anu Enlil tablets reveal a striking interplay between celestial events and terrestrial occurrences. These ancient records, detailing astronomical phenomena such as eclipses, planetary alignments, and meteorological patterns, are coupled with predictions of floods, famines, and conflicts. While some might dismiss these correlations as coincidental, the precision with which celestial events align with historical outcomes has prompted some scholars to reconsider the ancients' predictive capabilities. The priests of Babylon meticulously recorded patterns over generations, understanding that human events often mirrored cosmic rhythms. Egyptian texts offer equally compelling examples. Certain pyramid texts and temple inscriptions describe periods of chaos, invasion, or societal disruption using allegorical language. One passage, depicting the sun god Ra retreating into darkness and a serpent devouring order, can be interpreted as a metaphor for foreign conquest and internal turmoil. These descriptions, though symbolic, correspond with known periods of upheaval in Egyptian history. Some researchers argue that such prophecies were encoded in conjunction with astronomical observations, creating a sophisticated system that allowed priests to anticipate political and environmental crises. The prophecies of the Maya provide another remarkable example. Mayan codices, particularly those tracking the cycles of Venus and other celestial bodies, appear to encode events such as droughts, societal collapse, and the rise and fall of dynasties. By observing the heavens over decades and centuries, Mayan priests could correlate celestial cycles with terrestrial outcomes, encoding these insights in glyphs and ritual instructions. For instance, the correlation between Venus appearances and times of political tension suggests that the Maya recognized long-term patterns that repeated across generations, linking the cosmic and human spheres in a predictive framework. In classical Greece and Rome, prophecy was often more overtly political, yet equally intriguing. Oracles and augurs interpreted signs in the sky, animal behavior, and other omens to forecast wars, natural disasters, and shifts in leadership. The Oracle of Delphi, for instance, provided guidance to kings and generals, sometimes warning of impending defeat or urging caution during times of political upheaval. While framed in religious language, these prophecies often demonstrated a sophisticated understanding of human behavior, geography, and environmental factors. The combination of observation, intuition, and ritual created a system capable of producing remarkably accurate predictions. Even in medieval Europe, prophetic writings continued to anticipate societal upheavals and disasters. Figures like Nostradamus are often cited, though his cryptic quatrains are a modern example of a long tradition of encoded foresight. Medieval monks and esoteric scholars frequently recorded visions and prophecies regarding plagues, wars, and dynastic changes. While veiled in allegory, these texts often correlate with historical events, suggesting that prophecy was not mere guesswork, but an attempt to interpret patterns and cycles that were observable yet not immediately obvious. Natural disasters, in particular, feature prominently in prophetic traditions across civilizations. Floods, earthquakes, and famines are repeatedly mentioned in Egyptian, Mesopotamian, Mayan, and even Vedic texts. Many of these prophecies were encoded alongside astronomical observations, implying a belief that cosmic cycles could influence terrestrial events. The careful recording of such patterns demonstrates a blend of empirical observation and symbolic interpretation. Ancient priests may have understood that environmental and societal phenomena follow cycles, knowledge that could be used to anticipate crises and guide preparation. What is particularly striking is the consistency across cultures. Civilizations separated by oceans and centuries often employed similar methods. Observation of celestial patterns, encoding knowledge in symbolic language, and ritualized transmission to train initiates. This universality suggests that these societies recognized fundamental rhythms in nature and human behavior, and that prophecy was a methodical practice grounded in observation, pattern recognition, and symbolic communication. Yet these prophecies were deliberately veiled, often expressed in allegory, metaphor, or coded language. A warning about a foreign invasion might appear as a story of God's waging war in the heavens. A prediction of famine could be framed as the retreat of a celestial deity. This obscurity ensured that only those with the proper training could interpret the full meaning, protecting the knowledge from misuse while preserving it for future generations. It also adds to the mystery. What other accurate prophecies might remain hidden, unreadable to the uninitiated? The implications are profound. If ancient priests could observe, record, and encode events that would unfold centuries later, then history itself becomes a canvas for understanding cycles, patterns, and interconnections that modern science is only beginning to appreciate. These prophecies challenge conventional notions of time, causality, and human agency, suggesting that civilizations possessed a far deeper understanding of the forces shaping their world than we often give them credit for. As we continue our journey, we will explore how these prophecies intersect with secret societies, hidden symbols, and esoteric rituals, forming a complex network of knowledge designed to survive the ravages of time. The rise and fall of empires, the recurrence of disasters, and the cycles of human civilization were not merely recorded. They were anticipated, encoded, and preserved by those who understood the subtle rhythms of the cosmos. These prophecies remind us that the ancients were not passive observers of history, but active participants in a dialogue with the future, leaving messages for generations yet to come. In the shadowed corners of museums, private collections, and archaeological sites, countless artifacts sit quietly, their surfaces weathered by time, their meanings largely forgotten. To the casual observer, they are relics of the past, tools, ornaments, or ceremonial objects. Yet for those attuned to the whispers of history, these artifacts are more than material remains. They are vessels of encoded knowledge, tangible records of prophecy, designed to preserve insights across centuries, waiting for those capable of decoding their secrets. From the obsidian mirrors of Mesoamerican priests to the intricately carved stelae of Egypt and Mesopotamia, these objects were deliberately crafted to hold layers of information. In Mesoamerica, obsidian and jade objects were often inscribed with glyphs representing not only deities or rulers, but also celestial cycles, omens, and ritual instructions. A ceremonial knife or scepter might encode the timing of eclipses, cycles of Venus, or the alignment of planets with human affairs. These artifacts were not casual decorations. They were instruments for understanding the rhythms of the cosmos and their reflection in human events. In Egypt, amulets and statues served similar dual purposes. Beyond their apparent religious function, many contained symbols, hieroglyphs, and alignments corresponding to astronomical phenomena. An amulet worn by a priest could serve as a mnemonic device, helping to recall complex cycles of stars, planetary movements, or ritual timing. Statues and carvings, aligned with temple architecture or celestial markers, encoded warnings, guidance, and prophecies. In some cases, the combination of materials, shape, and inscription acted as a multidimensional code, integrating spiritual symbolism with cosmic observation. Even the seemingly mundane artifacts of daily life sometimes held hidden meaning. Certain vessels, staffs, or ceremonial clothing were intentionally patterned to convey temporal or cosmic information. A cup used in ritual might bear inscriptions aligned with lunar cycles. A staff or wand could serve as both a ceremonial object and a pointer for observing the position of the sun or stars. The ancients understood that knowledge needed to be preserved in ways that could endure beyond fragile texts or ephemeral structures. Physical objects, meticulously crafted and symbolically encoded, provided resilience, ensuring that prophecy could survive the centuries. Artifacts often intersected with sacred texts and architectural codes, forming an integrated system of knowledge. A temple's layout, the inscriptions on its walls, and the ceremonial objects used within it could all convey overlapping information. By engaging with these objects in ritual context, priests and initiates effectively read the prophecy embedded in the physical environment. Each element, stone, metal, pigment, and shape, became a letter in a broader language of hidden knowledge, a language designed to communicate complex insights across generations. Some artifacts, like the Babylonian cuneiform tablets, were both text and object. The clay itself, shaped and inscribed, carried astronomical, historical, and prophetic data. Observations of planetary motion, eclipses, and seasonal cycles were encoded in numerical and symbolic form, allowing priests to anticipate outcomes centuries in advance. Similarly, in India, yantras, geometric designs etched into metal or painted on cloth, functioned as both meditative tools and repositories of cosmic knowledge. Each line, shape, and proportion held layered meanings, integrating mathematics, astronomy, and spiritual insight in a tangible, portable form. The deliberate secrecy of these artifacts is notable. Many were only accessible to initiates, hidden in chambers, buried, or locked away in treasuries. Their value lay not only in their craftsmanship, but in the knowledge they contained. A single artifact could encode years of observation, predictions, and ritual instructions, forming a tangible bridge between past, present, and future. By interacting with these objects, initiates internalized cycles of time, patterns of human behavior, and cosmic rhythms, knowledge that could influence decisions, rituals, and the interpretation of future events. Even today, artifacts continue to reveal hidden insights. Modern archaeologists, astronomers, and historians uncover astronomical alignments, calendrical data, and coded messages embedded in objects previously thought mundane. Each discovery challenges our assumptions about the sophistication of ancient civilizations. It suggests that the ancients had developed multi-layered systems for preserving knowledge, systems that blended art, ritual, science, and prophecy in ways that continue to surprise us. The persistence of these artifacts across continents and cultures hints at a universal understanding of their importance. From Egypt to Mesoamerica, from Mesopotamia to India, ancient societies recognized that knowledge, particularly prophetic knowledge, needed a physical anchor. Texts could be destroyed, temples could crumble, and oral traditions could be forgotten, but objects crafted with intent could endure, silently preserving insight across millennia. Ultimately, artifacts of prophecy remind us that history is not only written in texts or carved into stone. It can be held in our hands. They are proof that the ancients understood the fragility of knowledge and the importance of transmission. Each artifact is a silent teacher, a coded message, and a link between generations. To study these objects is to step into a dialogue with the past, to witness the foresight and ingenuity of those who sought to understand time, cycles, and destiny. As we move forward, we will see how these artifacts intersect with secret rituals, celestial codes, and prophetic texts, forming a multidimensional network of hidden knowledge. Together, they offer a vision of human history as more than a linear narrative. It is a tapestry of cycles, warnings, and encoded insights, waiting for those who can read the signs. Across the globe, from the deserts of Egypt to the jungles of Mesoamerica, from the plains of Europe to the mountains of Asia, sacred sites share a remarkable and deliberate feature: their alignment with celestial phenomena. These alignments were no accident. Ancient priests, architects, and astronomers meticulously observed the heavens, recording the movements of stars, planets, and the sun, and translating that knowledge into monumental structures. Temples, pyramids, stone circles, and shrines were not only places of worship. They were instruments for observing the cosmos, encoding prophecy, and connecting human civilization with the eternal rhythms of the universe. The Great Pyramid of Giza stands as perhaps the most famous example. Its precise orientation to the cardinal points is well documented, but the deeper mystery lies in its internal shafts and chambers, which point towards specific stars. Orion's belt, Sirius, and other key celestial bodies were mirrored within the structure, creating a cosmic map in stone. These alignments suggest that the priests who designed the pyramid were encoding knowledge about the heavens and its cycles. By embedding astronomical markers in the very architecture, they ensured that the structure would function as a celestial observatory and a repository of prophetic insight for millennia. Stonehenge, on the windswept plains of England, presents another striking example. Its massive stones are aligned with the sunrise on the summer solstice and the sunset on the winter solstice, creating a living calendar to mark seasonal change. Beyond practical agricultural planning, these alignments held symbolic and ritual significance. The monument allowed ancient priests and druids to synchronize human activity with cosmic cycles, reinforcing the connection between celestial events and societal rhythms. Shadow and light, stone and sky, all became tools for observing, recording, and interpreting the universe. In Mesoamerica, the Mayan city of Chichen Itza demonstrates similarly precise celestial integration. The El Castillo Pyramid, built with incredible accuracy, interacts with the sun during the equinox to cast shadows resembling a serpent descending the steps. This phenomenon was not mere decoration. It was a deliberate alignment that encoded knowledge about solar cycles, cosmic order, and sacred myth. By embedding astronomical data in architecture, the Mayan priests created a tangible interface between human observers and the heavens, transforming the city itself into a living prophecy. Sacred sites often incorporated multiple layers of celestial encoding. Temples, shrines, and observatories frequently aligned not only with the sun and moon, but with specific stars and planetary movements. Observing these alignments allowed priests to anticipate seasonal events, celestial phenomena, and even societal upheavals. The structures functioned as a bridge between the earthly and the divine, a physical manifestation of the belief that the cosmos and human civilization are deeply intertwined. Even in Asia, the precision of celestial alignments is evident. In India, the temple complexes at Khajuraho and Konark incorporate architectural features aligned with solstices, equinoxes, and stellar positions. In China, ancient observatories, such as the Gaoqing Astronomical Tower, were built with a careful understanding of celestial mechanics, allowing astronomers to chart the stars, predict eclipses, and encode knowledge about cosmic cycles. Across cultures, the consistent integration of sacred sites with astronomy suggests a shared recognition. The heavens were a book to be read, interpreted, and preserved through monuments on Earth. The significance of these alignments extends beyond observation. Celestial correspondences often encoded cycles of prophecy and warnings about societal events. Eclipses, planetary conjunctions, and solstices were considered omens, and their precise monitoring allowed priests to interpret them within the context of human affairs. By situating sacred sites in alignment with these events, the ancients created a system in which architecture itself could communicate warnings, predictions, and ritual guidance. Every shadow, reflection, or alignment carried meaning, bridging the human and the divine. Many sacred sites also served as repositories of layered knowledge. The alignment of stones, pyramids, and temples was combined with inscriptions, statues, and ritual practices to encode multifaceted information. A single site could integrate astronomy, mathematics, mythology, and prophecy, creating a multidimensional interface for observation, ritual, and instruction. Initiates trained in reading these alignments would gain insight into cosmic cycles, agricultural timing, and even the potential rise and fall of dynasties. The sacred site was not simply a location of worship. It was a teaching tool, a cosmic map, and a prophetic instrument all in one. The precision of these alignments raises compelling questions. How did ancient civilizations, without modern technology, achieve such accuracy? How did they transmit knowledge of celestial mechanics across generations, especially in societies where oral tradition dominated? The answer appears to lie in a combination of careful observation, ritualized practice, and encoded instruction. By integrating prophecy, astronomy, and architecture, ancient priests created enduring systems capable of preserving knowledge far beyond the lifespan of a single civilization. Modern researchers continue to uncover astonishing details. Using astronomical software and precise measurements, scholars have verified alignments with stars and planets that were previously dismissed as coincidental. Eclipses, solstices, and stellar risings align with monuments with remarkable precision, confirming that ancient builders were aware of the heavens in ways that modern observers are only beginning to comprehend. These discoveries suggest that sacred sites functioned as both observatories and repositories of prophetic knowledge, designed to communicate across centuries. Ultimately, the celestial alignment of sacred sites reveals a worldview in which the cosmos and human civilization are inseparable. Time was understood as cyclical. Events were anticipated through observation, and knowledge was deliberately encoded in stone, shadow, and ritual. Each site becomes a testament to the sophistication of ancient minds, a silent instruction manual etched in the landscape, waiting for those capable of reading it. As we move forward, we will examine how these celestial alignments intersect with secret rituals, artifacts, and prophecies, creating a multidimensional network of hidden knowledge. The sacred sites of the past were more than places of worship. They were living, breathing instruments of cosmic understanding, encoding warnings, guidance, and insight for generations yet unborn. By exploring these alignments, we begin to see a pattern. The ancients were not merely observers of the heavens. They were interpreters, recorders, and architects of prophecy itself. Beneath the stones of ancient temples, within the margins of sacred texts, and carved into artifacts, numbers quietly pulse with hidden significance. To the untrained eye, they appear as mere quantities or measurements, but to the priests, mystics, and scholars of antiquity, numbers were more than arithmetic. They were a universal language, a bridge between the material world and cosmic truth. Numerology, the study of the mystical and symbolic power of numbers, served as a powerful tool for encoding prophecy, structuring sacred architecture, and preserving esoteric knowledge across generations. Ancient civilizations consistently integrated numerology into their spiritual and intellectual frameworks. In Egypt, the dimensions of temples, pyramids, and ceremonial chambers were often carefully calculated using ratios and numbers believed to mirror the cosmos. The Great Pyramid of Giza, for example, is not only aligned with celestial points, but its dimensions encode the mathematical constants pi and phi, suggesting an understanding of both geometry and the natural order. Priests used these calculations to encode cosmic cycles, sacred rhythms, and prophetic patterns within the very fabric of their monumental creations. Numbers were not accidental. They were the DNA of sacred design. Similarly, in Mesopotamia, numerology was intertwined with astronomy, prophecy, and governance. The Babylonians divided time, the sky, and mathematical relationships into structured units that informed everything from agricultural planning to predicting eclipses and societal outcomes. Numerical codes were embedded in texts, clay tablets, and ritual instruction, providing a systematic approach to understanding the cycles of both the heavens and human civilization. Priests and scribes interpreted these numbers as more than practical. They were mystical signifiers of hidden order in a seemingly chaotic world. The Mayans provide another remarkable example. Their long count calendar, intertwined with cycles of Venus and other celestial phenomena, demonstrates the use of numerical precision to track vast cycles of time. Numbers were symbolic, mathematical, and prophetic all at once, allowing the priests to encode warnings, astronomical observations, and cyclical patterns of societal change. Through glyphs and numerical inscriptions, they transformed mathematics into prophecy, merging observation with symbolic foresight in ways that modern scholars are still deciphering. Numerology also served as a tool for encoding messages within sacred texts. In Hebrew Kabbalah, each letter corresponds to a number, allowing scholars to interpret hidden meanings and patterns within the Torah. These numerical values were used to uncover prophetic insights, predict outcomes, and explore the interconnectedness of events, both human and cosmic. Similarly, in Greek and Roman esoteric traditions, numerical correspondences were applied to the study of cosmology, architecture, and philosophical texts, embedding layers of coded wisdom accessible only to the initiated. The use of hidden codes extends beyond numbers alone. Letters, words, and symbols were often combined with numerology to create sophisticated systems of encryption, allowing knowledge and prophecy to be transmitted in forms that were nearly impervious to casual readers. A phrase could simultaneously convey literal, symbolic, and numerical meanings, forming a multi-layered message that integrated history, astronomy, and predictive insight. These codes were carefully designed to ensure continuity, allowing knowledge to endure through generations even when texts, rituals, or libraries were threatened. Architecture, too, functioned as a numerical and symbolic code. The positioning of stones, columns, and chambers often reflected sacred numbers, reinforcing both spiritual and cosmic correspondences. A temple floor might encode the calendar. A pyramid could reflect planetary cycles, and ceremonial platforms could contain mathematical patterns corresponding to celestial alignments. Numerology allowed ancient builders to integrate ritual, observation, and prophecy into physical space, ensuring that every structure was a repository of hidden knowledge. Even seemingly mundane objects were imbued with numerical significance. Ritual artifacts, jewelry, amulets, and ceremonial tools often incorporated specific numbers of elements, beads, lines, carvings, or inscriptions, each corresponding to cosmic cycles or prophetic markers. The priest's careful attention to these details transformed everyday materials into vessels of knowledge, allowing prophecy and hidden wisdom to endure even when societies fell or texts were destroyed. Numbers became the language of preservation, subtle but enduring, encoding knowledge that could survive millennia. The universality of numerology across civilizations is striking. From Egypt to Mesopotamia, from India to Mesoamerica, cultures independently recognize the power of numbers to encode knowledge and connect the human and cosmic worlds. This shared understanding suggests that ancient civilizations were not merely interpreting their environment. They were actively creating systems to preserve and transmit wisdom, bridging generations and continents through a language that transcended words. Modern researchers, cryptographers, and archaeologists are only beginning to decode the numerical patterns embedded in ancient artifacts and texts. Hidden correspondences between architecture, astronomy, and sacred numerology reveal that numbers were integral to prophecy, ritual, and the organization of human understanding. Every measurement, every ratio, and every repetition in these ancient systems had purpose and meaning, demonstrating a sophistication that continues to astonish and inspire. Ultimately, numerology and hidden codes remind us that knowledge in the ancient world was not haphazard. It was deliberate, layered, and multidimensional. Numbers were more than symbols. They were vessels of prophecy, keys to unlocking cosmic cycles, and tools for preserving wisdom against the erosion of time. Through numerology, the ancients encoded truths about the universe, human society, and the cycles of history, leaving a legacy that challenges our assumptions and invites us to read between the lines of what survives today. As we move forward, we will explore how these numerical and symbolic codes intersect with prophecy, sacred architecture, and hidden knowledge, forming a vast, interconnected network designed to endure across centuries. Numbers like stars and stones were part of a deliberate system for encoding the past, guiding the present, and anticipating the future, a subtle yet profound testament to the ingenuity of the ancients. Knowledge, particularly the kind that bridges the mundane and the cosmic, has always been both precious and dangerous. Throughout history, civilizations have recognized that information is power, and power can be threatening. The very same texts, artifacts, and rituals that preserved prophecy and esoteric wisdom have also been targeted for suppression. Libraries were burned, temples destroyed, and secret societies forced underground, all in an effort to control, obscure, or eliminate access to knowledge deemed too powerful or destabilizing for the uninitiated. One of the most famous examples of suppression is the destruction of the Library of Alexandria. For centuries, it housed scrolls and manuscripts containing astronomical records, mathematical treatises, and historical accounts from across the ancient world. Many of these works encoded prophetic insights and esoteric knowledge. When political and religious forces clashed over control, vast amounts of wisdom were lost, leaving only fragments behind. Yet, even in destruction, traces remained. Encoded texts, surviving copies, and oral traditions allowed knowledge to endure in unexpected forms, waiting for rediscovery by later generations. Religious and political authorities often viewed esoteric knowledge with suspicion, interpreting prophecy, numerology, and ritual as potential threats to centralized control. The rise of orthodox institutions in Europe, for instance, led to the persecution of practitioners of alchemy, astrology, and mystical arts. Texts were censored or hidden, and rituals that had once been public became secretive. Yet this very suppression inadvertently created a preservation mechanism. Knowledge that survived had to be carefully encoded, transmitted in cryptic symbols, secret manuscripts, and hidden artifacts, effectively safeguarding it against complete eradication. In the East, similar patterns emerged. Chinese Taoist texts and Indian tantric manuscripts were sometimes hidden to protect sacred knowledge from political upheaval or conquest. Monasteries and sects became custodians of wisdom, carefully controlling access to ensure it would survive for initiates who could understand and interpret it correctly. Suppression, paradoxically, forced knowledge into a more durable form, encrypted, ritualized, and resistant to decay, ensuring that prophecy and cosmic understanding could endure even in turbulent times. Rediscovery of hidden knowledge often comes in waves, centuries, or even millennia after the original suppression. During the Renaissance, European scholars unearthed lost texts from Greek, Egyptian, and Arabic traditions. Manuscripts containing mathematics, astronomy, and mystical philosophy were painstakingly copied, studied, and sometimes integrated into secret societies like the Rosicrucians and early Freemasons. These groups acted as intermediaries, safeguarding esoteric knowledge while gradually introducing fragments in a broader intellectual discourse. Each rediscovery reaffirmed the resilience of hidden wisdom and its capacity to survive against formidable odds. Archaeology, too, has played a critical role in rediscovery. Sites such as the ruins of Babylon, the pyramids of Egypt, Mayan temples, and European megaliths have revealed evidence of knowledge thought long lost. Astronomical alignments, coded inscriptions, and ritual artifacts are being studied with modern technology, uncovering patterns and predictive systems that echo ancient prophetic practices. Satellites, 3D scanning, and computer modeling now allow researchers to uncover celestial alignments and hidden codes with precision, revealing layers of understanding that had remained invisible for centuries. The rediscovery process often highlights a complex interplay between suppression and secrecy. Many artifacts and texts survived precisely because they were hidden, encrypted, or restricted to initiates. The knowledge that seems miraculous in its survival was, in reality, the result of deliberate efforts by those who understood its value. Secret societies, monasteries, and isolated scholars acted as guardians, preserving wisdom in forms that could withstand persecution, natural disasters, or the erosion of memory. Even today, modern researchers and enthusiasts continue to uncover hidden knowledge. Esoteric manuscripts, forgotten codices, and cryptic inscriptions resurface in libraries, private collections, and archaeological digs. Scholars are beginning to recognize that ancient knowledge was often encoded in multidimensional systems, combining numerology, astronomy, sacred geometry, and ritual practice, designed to endure beyond the limitations of ordinary record-keeping. Each discovery prompts new questions. What else remains hidden? How much knowledge has been irretrievably lost? and how much is merely awaiting the eyes capable of interpreting it. Suppression has also left a shadow of mystery, fueling speculation and conspiracy theories. Tales of forbidden texts, hidden orders, and clandestine wisdom circulate widely, often blurring fact and legend. Yet the underlying reality is clear. Knowledge of prophecy, cosmic cycles, and hidden truths has always been treated with caution because it carries both insight and influence. The interplay of secrecy, suppression, and rediscovery demonstrates the resilience of human curiosity and the enduring desire to connect with knowledge that transcends ordinary perception. In many ways, suppression has enhanced the allure of hidden knowledge. The very act of guarding wisdom, through cryptic inscriptions, secret rituals, and encoded artifacts, ensured that it would survive, compelling future generations to seek it out with renewed dedication. Each rediscovery is not simply an archaeological or scholarly achievement. It is a resurrection of ancient understanding, a bridge between past and present that illuminates the continuity of human curiosity and cosmic awareness. Ultimately, the history of suppression and rediscovery illustrates the fragility and resilience of wisdom. Knowledge may be obscured, destroyed, or forbidden, but often finds ways to endure, encoded in stone, hidden in texts, and preserved through ritual. For the modern seeker, rediscovering these fragments is a reminder that the ancients were not passive recorders of events. They were deliberate stewards of prophecy, custodians of cosmic insight, and architects of systems designed to survive the ravages of time. Each rediscovery is an invitation to engage with the hidden knowledge of the past, to see beyond conventional history, and to consider that the ancients may have known far more than we give them credit for. In a modern era, the whispers of ancient prophecy echo louder than ever. From the dimly lit halls of libraries and museums to the virtual corridors of the internet, scholars, researchers, and enthusiasts are piecing together fragments of knowledge preserved across millennia. Ancient texts, artifacts, and sacred sites, once obscured or secret, are now scrutinized under the lens of modern science, archaeology, and comparative study. What emerges is a startling realization. The prophecies of ancient priests, encoded in numbers, symbols, rituals, and structures, continue to resonate, influencing not only historical interpretation, but also contemporary culture, politics, and thought. One of the most striking aspects of modern interpretations is the interdisciplinary approach that has emerged. Astronomers study celestial alignments, archaeologists examine architectural precision, historians contextualize ancient events, and linguists decode symbolic scripts. By combining these disciplines, modern researchers are uncovering correlations between ancient prophecy and recorded events with unprecedented clarity. A temple aligned with Orion's belt, a Mayan codex noting Venus cycles, or an Egyptian hieroglyph encoding a flood. All these disparate elements are being linked, revealing a sophisticated understanding of time, cycles, and causality that surpasses conventional historical explanations. Take, for instance, the resurgence of interest in Mayan and Mesoamerican prophecies. When the long count calendar came to global attention, debates erupted over its supposed predictions. While sensational claims of apocalyptic forecasts captured headlines, careful analysis revealed a far more nuanced understanding. The Maya were encoding cyclical patterns of time, social upheaval, and celestial phenomena, not issuing doomsday warnings. Modern researchers studying these patterns recognize the sophistication of Mayan astronomical observation and prophetic methodology, noting that their foresight was rooted in careful empirical observation rather than mystical speculation. Similarly, Egyptian prophecy has found new relevance in modern scholarship. Researchers have revisited pyramid texts, coffin inscriptions, and temple carvings, uncovering layers of symbolic knowledge related to cosmic cycles, governance, and environmental change. While the texts are allegorical, they encode information about celestial events, seasonal cycles, and societal shifts. Some scholars suggest that priests anticipated periods of famine, political instability, or foreign invasion, integrating these predictions into ritual and architectural design. Modern interpretation is increasingly revealing that prophecy in ancient Egypt was both a spiritual practice and a sophisticated system of societal guidance. The influence of ancient prophecy extends beyond academic study. It permeates modern esoteric and spiritual movements. Contemporary occultists, mystics, and New Age practitioners often draw upon numerology, sacred geometry, and ritual practices derived from ancient traditions. The Fibonacci sequence, phi ratios, and planetary cycles are invoked in meditation, divination, and spiritual exercises, reflecting a direct lineage from ancient wisdom to present-day practice. These reinterpretations, while sometimes speculative, underscore the enduring appeal and applicability of prophetic systems designed thousands of years ago. Interestingly, the influence of prophecy is also seen in political and cultural symbolism. Leaders and thinkers throughout history have sought guidance, sometimes overtly, sometimes covertly, from texts and artifacts considered prophetic. The interpretation of celestial omens, sacred calendars, and numerological codes inform decisions ranging from warfare to agricultural planning, highlighting the practical utility of prophecy. In modern times, researchers have begun to trace how these ancient practices have influenced the development of calendars, astronomical observation, and even political strategy. Prophecy, in this sense, is not static. It evolves, shaping and being shaped by the societies that engage with it. Modern technology has dramatically expanded our ability to understand and interpret ancient prophecy. Satellite imagery reveals precise alignments of sacred sites across continents, while 3D scanning and computer modeling reconstruct long-lost structures with extraordinary accuracy. Textual analysis software enables the decoding of complex numerical and symbolic patterns embedded in manuscripts, revealing layers of meaning that were previously inaccessible. By leveraging these tools, researchers are uncovering the interconnectedness of sacred architecture, numerology, and celestial observation, revealing a coherent system of knowledge that transcends geographic and temporal boundaries. One compelling area of study is the intersection of prophecy and environmental observation. Ancient societies often encoded knowledge of seasonal cycles, floods, droughts, and natural disasters within prophetic texts and rituals. Modern scholars, by analyzing these records, are beginning to see patterns that correlate with historical climatic events. In some cases, prophetic knowledge functioned as an early form of environmental forecasting, enabling societies to anticipate and respond to natural challenges. This highlights an aspect of ancient wisdom that remains highly relevant today: the observation of natural cycles and the anticipation of future events through careful study and encoded knowledge. The rediscovery and reinterpretation of prophecy also raise profound questions about the nature of knowledge itself. Ancient civilizations often operated on the principle that truth is layered, requiring study, ritual, and insight to access fully. Symbols, numerology, and encoded text were designed to protect and transmit knowledge across generations, ensuring that only those prepared to engage deeply could unlock its secrets. Modern researchers, by combining interdisciplinary approaches with technological tools, are finally beginning to decipher these layers, bridging the gap between ancient and contemporary understanding. Yet, despite these advances, prophecy retains an aura of mystery. Many texts remain untranslated. Artifacts are undiscovered, and celestial alignments continue to provoke speculation. The hidden dimensions of prophecy, the interplay between time, cycles, and human agency, invite ongoing exploration. In this sense, prophecy is not merely a historical artifact. It is a living system of knowledge, challenging modern assumptions and inviting dialogue between past and present. The influence of ancient prophecy on modern thought is also evident in popular culture. Films, literature, and documentaries draw upon symbolic systems, sacred sites, and historical mysteries, reflecting a fascination with hidden knowledge and cyclic time. This cultural resonance underscores a universal human desire to understand the patterns underlying existence, to anticipate the future and to connect with wisdom preserved across centuries. Prophecy, whether taken literally or metaphorically, continues to inspire curiosity, inquiry, and imagination. Ultimately, modern interpretations reveal that ancient prophecies were not idle speculation. They were deliberate, systematic, and multidimensional attempts to understand and preserve knowledge. By decoding these systems, we gain insight into how civilizations perceive the cosmos, human behavior, and the cycles of history. The legacy of ancient prophecy is not simply a curiosity of the past. It is an ongoing conversation between generations, a bridge connecting human understanding across time, and a testament to the enduring ingenuity and foresight of our ancestors. As we move toward the climactic sections of this journey, it becomes clear that prophecy is more than prediction. It is a multidimensional dialogue. Ancient knowledge, preserved through ritual, numerology, sacred architecture, and secret societies, continues to shape modern understanding and imagination. By studying these intersections, we glimpse a universe in which time, human action, and cosmic cycles are intricately intertwined, revealing patterns that both challenge and illuminate our contemporary worldview.
As we reach the culmination of this journey through ancient prophecy, secret societies, sacred artifacts, and celestial alignments, a pattern emerges, a hidden thread connecting past and present, revealing the extraordinary foresight of our ancestors. What seemed like disparate mysteries, cryptic inscriptions, precise architectural alignments, coded numbers, and esoteric rituals, are in reality interconnected elements of grand design. The ancients did not merely record history. They encoded it, embedded guidance for future generations, and crafted a dialogue with time itself. At the heart of this revelation is a recognition that prophecy was never intended as idle speculation. It was a systematic practice, deeply intertwined with observation, mathematics, ritual, and spiritual insight. Priests, astronomers, and mystics across continents and centuries understood that human civilization moves in cycles, influenced by celestial rhythms and cosmic patterns. Their writings, artifacts, and sacred sites were designed to survive the chaos of history, encoded with knowledge to guide those capable of interpretation. When viewed together, these elements form a web of interconnected understanding, a roadmap linking the rise and fall of empires, the recurrence of disasters, and the patterns of human behavior. Secret societies emerge as critical players in this network. From the Egyptian priesthood to the Rosicrucians, the Freemasons, and beyond, these groups served as custodians of hidden knowledge, carefully preserving texts, artifacts, and ritual practices. By operating in secrecy, they protected prophetic knowledge from corruption, misuse, or destruction. Their role was not simply ceremonial, it was functional. Through encoded rituals, numerology, and architectural guidance, these societies ensured that the wisdom of the past could be interpreted correctly, influencing decisions and guiding civilizations across centuries. They acted as living conduits, bridging the temporal gap between ancient insight and modern understanding. Artifacts, too, play a central role in this climactic vision. Objects once thought mundane, a ceremonial knife, an amulet, a carved stela, or a temple cornerstone, become vessels of prophecy when examined through the lens of hidden knowledge. Each object encodes layers of meaning, astronomical cycles, societal patterns, and ritual instruction. In combination with sacred sites and numerological systems, these artifacts form a multidimensional network of guidance. The physical and symbolic worlds converge, revealing that prophecy is not abstract. It is tangible, encoded in objects, landscapes, and time itself. Celestial alignments are another critical component. Across continents, sacred sites were constructed with extraordinary precision, their orientations reflecting the positions of stars, planets, and the sun. These alignments were far from ornamental. They were functional, allowing ancient priests to monitor cosmic rhythms, anticipate environmental cycles, and encode predictive knowledge. By aligning architecture with the heavens, ancient civilizations created living instruments of prophecy, bridging the terrestrial and celestial, the present and the future. Modern technology now allows us to uncover these alignments with unprecedented precision, revealing the sophistication of ancient observation and the enduring relevance of cosmic cycles. Numerology and hidden codes further connect the dots. Numbers were never arbitrary. They were symbolic, predictive, and practical. Mathematical ratios in architecture, sequences in sacred texts, and coded inscriptions all convey multi-layered messages. These numerical patterns encode time cycles, astronomical observations, and societal trends. By decoding these numbers, we gain access to a system of knowledge that transcends language and geography, revealing that ancient civilizations shared a deep understanding of universal principles. The hidden codes serve as both safeguard and key, ensuring that wisdom endures while remaining accessible only to those prepared to decipher it. The modern rediscovery of these elements completes the cycle. Archaeologists, historians, cryptographers, and astronomers are uncovering layers of hidden knowledge, revealing patterns that resonate with events across centuries. What was once suppressed or secret now emerges in fragments that are slowly assembled into coherent narratives. Each discovery reinforces a notion that ancient prophecy was deliberate, methodical, and designed for longevity. The resurgence of interest in sacred geometry, Mayan and Egyptian prophecy, and secret societies reflects not only curiosity, but a recognition of the value of this wisdom in understanding both history and our place in the universe. Perhaps the most profound realization is that ancient knowledge and modern interpretation are not separate. They are part of a continuous dialogue. The insights of the past inform contemporary understanding, while modern tools allow us to reinterpret and expand that knowledge. Every artifact studied, every celestial alignment mapped, every numerical code deciphered strengthens the bridge between generations, confirming that prophecy was a deliberate effort to communicate across time. The ancients were not merely observers. They were architects of understanding, designing systems that could survive destruction, distortion, and forgetfulness. In this climactic vision, history itself becomes a tapestry of cycles, patterns, and encoded guidance. Empires rise and fall not merely by chance, but as part of observable rhythms. Disasters, social upheaval, and periods of enlightenment follow predictable patterns reflected in the heavens, in sacred sites, and in the coded knowledge preserved by secretive orders. Prophecy is a thread that ties these elements together, revealing a universe in which human action, celestial movement, and temporal cycles are intertwined. The implication is both humbling and exhilarating. The ancients possessed knowledge that transcended their immediate reality, offering insight into the dynamics of civilizations, nature, and cosmic order. Their legacy challenges modern assumptions about time, causality, and the limits of human understanding. By recognizing the hidden threads connecting past and present, we come to see prophecy not as superstition, but as a sophisticated, multidimensional system of knowledge, deliberately encoded to guide, warn, and inspire. As we conclude this journey, it becomes clear that the study of prophecy, hidden codes, sacred artifacts, and celestial alignments is not merely historical. It is profoundly relevant. Each discovery, each decoded pattern, and each alignment we uncover brings us closer to understanding the intentions, intelligence, and foresight of ancient civilizations. The threads connecting past and present are tangible, waiting for those willing to follow them. To see the universe not as a random sequence of events, but as a vast, interconnected web of time, knowledge, and cosmic order. In the end, prophecy is a reminder of continuity. The wisdom of the ancients endures not merely in texts or artifacts, but in the patterns, cycles, and insights they left behind. By studying, interpreting, and connecting these threads, we honor their foresight and gain a deeper understanding of our own place in the unfolding tapestry of history. The hidden knowledge of the past is no longer confined to secret chambers or cryptic symbols. It is alive, waiting to be read, understood, and integrated into collective understanding of humanity.
As our journey through the mysteries of prophecy, sacred sites, hidden codes, and celestial alignments comes to its conclusion, one truth becomes increasingly clear. The ancient world was not a chaotic or primitive place, but meticulously observed, symbolically rich, and profoundly interconnected civilization. The priests, scholars, and mystics of antiquity were far more than observers. They were architects of time, communicators across centuries, and custodians of knowledge designed to outlast empires, wars, and natural disasters. The legacy of prophecy is not confined to dusty scrolls or forgotten temples. It resonates through the very patterns that govern the cosmos and human civilization. The same celestial alignments that guided the construction of pyramids, ziggurats, and megaliths still mark solstices and equinoxes today. The numerical codes embedded in architecture and texts reveal cycles that repeat across generations. Even the artifacts that survived millennia, amulets, stelae, ceremonial tools, continue to offer insight into the intentions and observations of those who came before us. These are not relics of superstition, but deliberate instruments of foresight, carefully designed to endure and communicate across the gulf of time. Modern rediscovery has changed the way we engage with ancient wisdom. With advanced technology, interdisciplinary research, and renewed curiosity, we can see what our ancestors encoded in stone, metal, and text. We can trace the connections between sacred geometry, numerology, celestial phenomena, and prophecy. We can reconstruct the methods by which ancient priests anticipated floods, societal upheaval, or the rise and fall of dynasties. These discoveries are more than academic. They are reminders that knowledge is never entirely lost, and that curiosity, observation, and dedication can bridge even millennia. Secret societies, previously hidden from public view, also underscore the continuity of this wisdom. They were not merely conspiratorial enclaves, but guardians of knowledge, preserving insights that might have otherwise been lost to time or persecution. Through ritual, encoded texts, and disciplined practice, they ensured that prophecy, cosmic observation, and hidden understanding survive in ways that were secure, yet accessible to those prepared to interpret it. Modern reinterpretation of these societies and their records continues to reveal links between ancient insight and contemporary understanding, bridging past and present in tangible ways. Artifacts, inscriptions, and sacred sites collectively illustrate a worldview in which time, cosmos, and human activity are intertwined. The ancients recognized patterns in nature and society, encoding them into material culture in ways that allowed those patterns to be read centuries later. The pyramids of Egypt, the stone circles of Britain, and the temples of Mesoamerica were more than places of worship. They were observatories, libraries, and mnemonic devices, preserving prophecy and practical knowledge for future generations. These structures serve as enduring proof that the human mind has long sought to understand cycles, anticipate outcomes, and encode wisdom in forms that transcend immediate perception. Equally significant is the psychological and spiritual dimension of these insights. Ancient prophecy was not merely predictive, it was instructive. By observing cosmic and terrestrial cycles, and by encoding lessons within ritual, text, and architecture, the ancients provided guidance on how to live in harmony with both nature and society. The intertwining of cosmology, mathematics, and spirituality reflects a holistic worldview, one in which human action, environmental awareness, and cosmic rhythms were inseparable. Modern reinterpretation of these systems reminds us that the ancients' understanding of the world was both practical and profound, blending observation, intuition, and symbolism. Perhaps most compelling is the continuity of curiosity. Across centuries, humans have sought to decode the past, interpret prophecy, and understand the universe. From Renaissance scholars rediscovering Greek and Egyptian manuscripts to modern archaeologists, astronomers, and numerologists, the quest to uncover hidden knowledge continues unabated. Each discovery reinforces the notion that human history is more than a series of disconnected events. It is a web of patterns, cycles, and encoded wisdom, waiting to be deciphered by those willing to look closely. Yet, despite centuries of rediscovery, much remains unknown. Fragments of texts, unexcavated sites, and undiscovered artifacts remind us that prophecy is incomplete, that hidden knowledge is still buried within the earth, encoded in ways that challenge modern understanding. This uncertainty is not a limitation, but an invitation. It is a call to continue observing, analyzing, and interpreting, to recognize that knowledge is dynamic and that the dialogue between past and present is ongoing. As viewers, listeners, and seekers of truth, we are part of this continuum. By studying ancient prophecy, hidden codes, and sacred architecture, we participate in the transmission of knowledge that spans millennia. We carry forward the same curiosity, analytical rigor, and imaginative insight that allowed our ancestors to encode wisdom for the future. In engaging with these mysteries, we honor their foresight and deepen our own understanding of the cycles, patterns, and forces that shape our world. Ultimately, the journey through prophecy, sacred artifacts, celestial alignments, and hidden codes teaches us that the past is not a static record, but a living dialogue. Knowledge persists when it is observed, encoded, and interpreted. Wisdom survives when it is sought and applied. The ancients left us threads connecting heaven and earth, time and civilization, observation and intuition. By following these threads, we gain not only insight into history, but a deeper appreciation for the continuity of human curiosity and the intricate, interconnected design of the universe itself. In conclusion, the echoes of ancient wisdom remind us that prophecy, hidden knowledge, and sacred observation are not relics of the past. They are enduring tools for understanding the patterns of existence. They challenge us to look beyond the obvious, to decode the hidden, and to appreciate the sophistication of civilizations long gone. The past, present, and future are linked through these threads of insight, inviting us to continue the dialogue, to remain vigilant in our observation, and to marvel at the enduring ingenuity of the human spirit. Through this journey, we are reminded, the ancients spoke across time, encoded in stone, star, and symbol, waiting for eyes willing to see, minds prepared to interpret, and hearts open to wonder. Their message endures, inviting us not only to uncover the past, but to engage with the timeless patterns that continue to shape our world.